Hello, this is PubShots episode 24. Changes ChatGPT at 2. That is, Happy New Year to everyone. And I am
Yeah,
Dr.
happy New
KK.
Year.
Yeah, Innovation Officer at Trinka and Enago, and PubShots is a regular weekly stream show podcast that we have maybe 2 or 3 episodes every week because there are so many news stories coming out of AI, academia, etc. And I have with me Tony. Tony, hi, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, KK. I hope you had a good break and a fruitful start to 2025. I'm about to say 2026 there. I'm living ahead of myself. I can't believe it's episode 24 already.
Well, just like how the sun, rises in the east, we have pop shots recordings every week. That rhymes, Tony. So that's
Inevitability.
inevitability. And so, Tony, if somebody were to be watching us or listening to us for the first time, what would you explain Trinka and Inago and explain about yourself as well, what you do?
Okay, well, you've already explained what PubShorts is, so I don't need to explain that. Enago, we're a language services business. We provide support for authors, for publishers who are creating content. We have an extensive AI business, which is really driven by our Trinka tools, which is a suite of AI tools that help content development, the content development process. And you can find out information about Enago at enago.com, or you can find information about Trinka at trinka.ai.
All right. So, Tony, why are we calling this episode, or why we, referencing the famous David Bowie song, Changes?
Because the world that we're working in has changed so much in the last 2 years. I mean, 2 years ago, ChatGPT, LLMs wasn't even really part of everyday language. I had a conversation this weekend with a teacher, and he was saying that he's now using Gemini to help produce teaching plans. That just blew me away. A year ago, or even 2 years ago, she would never have said that.
Yeah, so this episode is because it's been what? It's been a week since we have done a regular. I mean, couple of weeks since we've done a regular episode. So we have covered all the AI stories that have come to our attention in the last couple of weeks or so. So lots of AI stuff, and we are indeed starting our conversation with the ChatGPT turning 2 story from Nature.com. It's a news article. So it is titled ChatGPT turns 2, how the AI chatbot has changed scientists' lives. So, Tony, are you aware of the original study that this news article references? It is a
Uh,
Wiley survey conducted last year.
Vaguely. I remember reading it back in the beginning of last year.
Okay, so let me switch to that. So this is a Wiley press release. As you can see, it was in I think last year of September, as far as I can read the date. So even though the survey is published in November 2023, it's about how generative AI is very common in college classrooms. That's the example that you just mentioned. A teacher using Gemini, and half of the instructors say that their students already use AI. Another third of the instructors are open to using AI in the future. Most instructors are familiar with AI tools, and generative AI is expected to grow in classrooms, Tony, over the next few years. So I'll stop here. Your thoughts so far? This is last year's news, and I want to sort of.
My only thought is I think that percentage is probably a lot higher now than it was when the survey was conducted in 2023.
Yes, and the concern was, whether if there would be a negative repercussion about AI making things too easy for students to cheat, as in we are still sort of going through that, and the
Yeah, but
report.
that's going to go through a process of change as well. I think how subjects are taught at universities, how academic work is being done, is going to evolve over the next. So I'm trying to sense myself over the next few years.
Right.
So we're in the middle of I think in the middle between two points.
Mm-hmm.
That when we're evolving towards the next stage.
And Tony, we have talked about this particular thing, as in researchers also need to learn how to write prompts and to have some sort of understanding of how large language models work,
Yeah.
especially the more advanced ones. So this was also predicted last year. So this is all last year's, but this year's, I mean, this story, if you've read it, so this is an article from Nature, and researchers are currently, apparently, as per the author, using it for writing, reviewing literature, and people are worried about plagiarism. And a survey, this is from the last year, 81% of the researchers have used ChatGPT, and over 60,000 scholarly papers in 2023 involved large language models, and there are concerns about energy use and inaccuracy. So this is in a nutshell, as in this is why we have the episode title as such. So my question to you, Tony, is this: what do you think are the major sort of differences from last year? We don't have any survey details, but how do you think things have changed in classrooms, for instructors, for researchers in maybe December 2024, January 2025, in terms of the use of generative AI?
It goes without saying that generative AI is being used more and more at every stage of the education and the research process. I think the publishers are still playing catch up to a certain extent in terms of how they address that and how they recognize that and acknowledge that. Some publishers are doing it more effectively than others. We're going to talk about one of those later on. But I still think the industry is, to a large extent, is still playing catch up. But there's some very, very interesting, very good things coming out. But again, and I sound like a scratch record when I say this, the importance of human intervention, I hope the importance of it being used as an assistant rather than as a primary tool, I think can't be overlooked.
Yes, Tony. So one of the concerns in general about AI is that it gives you inaccuracies, and these inaccuracies are referred to as hallucinations in the context of generative AI. Now, there is an interesting, the next story that we are going to cover is from NewYorkTimes.com. It's titled "How Hallucinatory AI Helps Science Dream Up Big Breakthroughs." It's a positive spin on the nature of generative AI. It is able to create things and give ideas. So hallucinations are normally seen as a flaw in AI because they give you false information. But scientists find these hallucinations inspiratory and for discoveries and new ideas. And AI has already helped in cancer research, drug design, and even winning Nobel Prizes. And so this is a typical example of a protein folding use case for generative AI. This is a beautiful graphic. So far, do you think that this is a under sort of explored aspect of using generative AIs? Sorry.
I suppose the interesting thing here is it reflects, how good is the person making the query? How good is the query? If it's asking AI to think and behave in a particular way, that's really down to the information that the AI is being given, in terms of the query, the prompts, in order to start thinking in slightly different ways. I don't see how the AIs are doing it individually without a human support. But
Yes.
no, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating that it's creating new ways of thinking about traditional treatments and methods.
Yeah, so this has information from interviews that the author seems to have conducted. So a computer scientist says that it's giving new ideas. Somebody from MIT uses AI to discover novel antibiotics, and somebody from the University of Washington has used AI in protein design. So AI is expected to speed up scientific method and allow for faster testing of ideas. Some scientists argue that the term hallucination is misleading, which is a very interesting concept because, as we have talked, Tony, on PubShots, that hallucination is a sort of a feature for generative AI in the sense that it is supposed to be creative and it's supposed to generate new things. So it might give you inaccurate things. So that's when the human oversight is important.
But
So
there was one interesting thing in this article I found was the chemistry Nobel Prize winner who said that as a result of James Collins, I can't remember who it was, who said that by using AI, it helped them to register 100 new patents for their laboratory.
Right.
Now that for me, that was a kind of a mind-blowing statement. That a world-class laboratory with world-class Nobel Prize-winning scientists were using AI to even accelerate the rate of patent registration.
So this, do you agree with the fact that the term hallucination is sort of has a negative connotation, at least as of now?
It absolutely does, but it's like all things, I think it's not binary. I think there's a scale, and that there are some bad hallucinations, but as we see here, there are some very positive outcomes.
Right. And so, for ensuring positive outcomes in the context of research, we need responsible AI. And that's exactly the gist of this
Yeah,
article, which Tony,
yeah.
you forwarded me. I remember. It is titled Responsible AI in Academic Publishing. It is written by Harry Muncie, I think your friend, or an acquaintance.
He's not, I don't know Harry. No,
Okay.
but
All right. So the basic argument in this article is that responsible AI accelerates innovation and is a business asset. I think Harry is talking in from the context of publishers as well as institutions. It's not just about ethics, but it's also about sustainable growth and
yes,
competitive
yeah,
advantage.
yeah.
And so he's arguing that companies need mature strategies for AI that focus on long term stability, and responsible AI practices improve talent and customer retention and boost profits. So, do you overall agree with these
Oh,
points?
I agree with him 100%. I mean, the man talks a lot of sense here. You know,
Hmm.
it's about collective responsibility and having that, the industry as a whole taking responsibility. And I think, you know, it's about defining ways that the use of AI is sustainable and can be seen and transparent and explainable, and ultimately having a positive effect.
Yeah, explainability is very important. And he also mentioned, Harry mentions it's a socio-technical challenge. And that's the first time I've heard that concept, needing a human oversight, the entire AI in the processes kind of thing. And it involves correcting biases and ensuring transparency. You just mentioned it. And an example that he cited, it's a scholarly use case. Scopus AI uses responsible AI to provide reliable research summaries. So he argues for embedding humanity in AI tech to ensure a positive societal impact. So, Tony, a question to you. You meet a lot of clients and publishers. How much do they care for a company like ours or a vendor to be responsible in the use of AI and developing responsible AI solutions?
Oh, in the industry I work in, which is in with the scientific, technical, medical, and in the academic publishing industry, so responsibility is everything. You know, trust is everything. You know, they want to work with tools that will give them reliable results, that will give them accurate results,
Mhm.
and it will help them make good decisions and help the whole decision support process. So it's so important. It can't be understated.
And moving on to our next topic, it is an article. It is the results of the NeurIPS, which is Neural Information Processing Systems Conference 2024 experiment, Tony, on the usefulness of LLMs as an author checklist assistant for scientific papers. This is the first time I'm thinking about this. Your thoughts on just the title so far?
Um, I have thoughts on the content, not just on the title. Ask me.
All right. So this explores this sort of experiment explored how large language models can assist authors and researchers in scientific paper submissions. The
Yeah.
experiment focused on using LLMs as a checklist assistant for authors to ensure compliance with submission standards. So this is the actual paper if somebody is interested. So this paper you can refer to if you want to. So the authors in this paper found the tool as in sorry the paper states that the authors who used LLMs as a checklist assistant found the tool helpful but noted issues with strictness in terms of limited scope and inaccuracies. Over 70% of the authors reported positive experiences and made
Yeah.
changes based on feedback. The tool is useful but not a replacement for human review, is what is it's saying. And
Yeah.
there is concern regarding potential misuse if used for automatic or automated verification. So that's there. And eventually, we are all boiling down to this one point. We have to carefully integrate LLMs into processes and systems. So for more details, you can refer to the paper. But Tony, in your conversation again with publishers, have you seen any interest in using LLMs for screening for researchers or authors to help
Uh,
them?
well, okay, let's go back a step. I see a lot of interest from publishers who want to support authors by giving authors the tools to allow them to check that their submissions to journals meet all the criteria that are required.
Mhm.
At a submission point. So anything that can automate the process, can make it easy for the author and make it quicker for the publisher to reach a positive decision on a particular journal
Mhm.
can only be seen as positive. But this particular paper, for me, is kind of just another example of how peer review,
Mhm.
how the whole process is being supported by AI with human intervention. but I think we're going to see a lot more of these types of papers in different subject areas over the next 12 months.
Yeah, just to clarify what Tony was trying to say, I think we are talking about paper screening here, but I think, Tony, you're referring to the fact that AI or LLMs can be also used for peer review to help the reviewers
Yeah,
do
no,
their job.
I was specifically talking about screening as part of that sort of pre-peer review process.
Okay. So one interesting thing that I noted in this paper is that, because, if Tony, assume that you're a researcher, you have this LLM sort of critiquing your submission and you receive LLM based suggestions, and you tend to increase your detail and the length of the responses for any explanations that you have to give, which is a great thing. As in, more transparency, more clarity would be there. So I'm very happy that LLMs are finding their way into these different places that we did not think that LLMs could be used. So that's an interesting point for
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. I mean, I think the point we're going to reach, though, is that it doesn't need to be a longer explanation for it to be better, but using these LLMs to help them to phrase the explanation as concisely as possible.
Right. Now, I'm moving on to all the upcoming sort of news stories are related to, I think, speculation or futuristic thoughts. And the first one, which is a very interesting title, which is why I put this in our agenda, Tony. It is titled, is an article titled, "Will ChatGPT Get Tenure?" And it is published by Leiden Matrix, which is an official blog of the Center of Science and Technology Studies at the Leiden University. And basically, authors explore AI's future in academia. This is a speculative thinking, futuristic, blue sky thinking. I think it's there right here. Blue sky thinking to sketch some thought-provoking future scenarios. So some of the things that they mention are: research is increasingly AI assisted. It discusses implications. The article discusses implications for scholarly communication, and AI could potentially change publishing and research evaluation. So some of the important things that I've highlighted here, Tony, is that they mentioned dynamic publications, things that keep on updating automatically based on upcoming research. That's a very cool thing, right? That's exactly what we want.
Yeah, it is. It's nothing new. I mean, it's an interesting concept from this forward-thinking institute. But I mean, I've worked in academic publishing for a million years. Back and 20 years ago, we were talking about the living PDF and talking about the dynamic PDF, how you can make it a more dynamic document and more collaborative, allow more opportunity to update. There is a role to be played to show how the research article is the source, but how then that can impact and how that links from the original article itself.
So I was thinking of things like I guess systematic reviews and meta-analysis can get automatically updated. I'm not talking about AI doing everything by itself, but AI doing the background sort of as in basic work, and humans having the oversight so that the articles are not static. I mean, you mentioned static PDFs. I mean, we've been talking about it. But Tony, I think this also hints at things like a paper, a research paper. Let's assume that we call it a research document, which is available online, which has an AI or an AI agent associated with it. That agent is an expert in everything related to the paper, including citations that the paper has received, and so it keeps on scanning and keeps on updating.
Yeah.
So,
and that's one of the interesting sort of scenarios to consider is, I mean, we've talked about this in previous episodes of PubShorts, where if as a paper is published and then after several months or years, a particular paper that's in the reference list is retracted for sound scientific reasons, let's say, how does that affect the paper itself? And how does that affect the result of the paper itself? So those using AI tools to kind of predict the change, I think it would be interesting to see.
Right. So a couple of other points that I noted, which I want your opinion on. One is that journals could stop being the center of publishing in terms of research. There could be other documents or other means of publication. So that's, they mentioned research platforms. I'm not sure what exactly they mean, but okay. So you shook your head violently. So what are your thoughts?
Listen, when you've been in this industry as long as I have, there's this appreciation that the research journal is not just a cover with some pages stapled into it. The research journal reflects a number of things. It reflects the prestige of the articles that are in there, the reputation of the industry. It reflects the science as it stands at that point in time. There are so many things that the journal represents. Yes, I think that moving forward, there will be other ways where good science will be represented. I mean, I know in certain subject areas, for example, where journals are not really being used at all anymore, particularly in certain areas of physics and in computing and engineering. But they tend to be the exception rather than the rule. Researchers still need good, citable content. So I think, yes, the research group here has come up with some really interesting ideas, but I wonder how quickly the industry will engage with it.
Right. So, Tony, the last point that I want to quickly discuss is that they argue for different metrics, and they mention process-oriented and throughput-oriented metrics for such publications, as well as the need for new bibliometrics in general, in the sense that people need to change, and it's not just citations and reads and everything. So, interesting thing. I mean, I'm looking forward to the future. Maybe in 2035, maybe we'll have another PubShots episode where we will discuss how this is.
We'll come out of retirement to discuss it.
All right. So moving on to the next one. This is something that you found very interesting, Tony. It is a science article. It is titled "Brutal Math Test Stumps AI, but Not Human Expert." So, okay, quickly, this article is from Science, and it discusses a challenging mathematical test that AI models struggle with, but human experts succeeded in. And in summary, I think despite advancements, current models answer less than 2% of the test questions correctly, whereas expert mathematicians do. I mean, it's not surprising. Some AIs, and most AIs that people know about, are not quite good at mathematics and actual things like this. I mean, they're good at coding, but they are still looking at whatever you cannot have rational reasoning or reason-based thinking, and that's what the newer models are doing better and better. So, Tony, which other fields do you think AI failing more? Like mathematics, complex mathematics, AI is currently in 2025, January 6th. It is not as good as humans.
Before we had this, this podcast, we discussed this. I was surprised that these AIs weren't doing quite as well as I expected them to do. But maybe that's just a reflection of that kind of deflection point between what it can do easily based on its training, based on information that's given to it, and what it can't easily reason. And I think that point is getting higher and higher and higher and higher.
Right.
In terms of other subject areas, for example, I'll be interested to see the use of AI in the humanities and social sciences, particularly in the humanities, which is very much about creativity. I wonder whether there are some good examples of, for example, songs that are written by AI or poems that are written by AI, but they still somehow lack originality.
All right, Tony, we are talking about Terminator. Not really, but very close to it. How close is AI to human level intelligence? It's a news feature from Nature, and generally this article is about different levels of intelligence. But basically, they're talking about the latest OpenAI model. We've talked about it in a couple of episodes. It's the O1 model, and it is I think the ChatGPT premium subscribers have more access to it and more, let's say, the best version of the model. Now, it is also arguing that AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, could solve big problems but also pose risks, and that is a classical thing in the movie Terminator. And the conversation is around the AGI becoming more mainstream, and some researchers believe that AGI might be closer than we think it is, as in terms of I think there are, if I'm not mistaken, Tony, if you have read O1, apparently the OpenAI model refused to shut itself down after being instructed. This is a rumor that I've heard and not verified it, because it thinks that it should not be shut down because it has some sort of a sentience, is what I've heard. This is from other podcasts. So, Tony, you're looking forward to AGI. Do you fancy a post-apocalyptic scenario like in Terminator, or do you see something better?
I certainly don't look forward to a Terminator scenario. No, but I think these AI tools and these LLMs are getting better and better, and we're going to see much more capable, much more resilient, much more responsible AI moving forward, I hope.
All right. Another news story regarding how AI companies are, using data which they may or may not, or they should or should not, depending on the legality. So the article is titled "How Tech Giants Cut Corners to Harvest Data for AI." So it is from NewYorkTimes.com. So in a nutshell, OpenAI used a tool to transcribe YouTube videos to train its models, and Google and Meta have also been doing this. And I have heard that Sora, the OpenAI video generation model, has been trained on footage from computer video games, as in video games. So, Tony, is it time for us, from the publishing academia point of view, to revisit the argument of scientific data being used to train models? As in, are you still? We both are, I think, consensually, we agree that we should give as much data as possible so that AI can be.
Well, no, I don't think we should be giving anything. I think there should be responsible licensing, as there is in anything. And I think some of the actions that were taken last year with publishers like OUP and I think Wiley and Taylor and Francis, for example, who've licensed their content, are good, are positive in terms of using good quality content to train the AI. But I don't think it's any organization's right to be able to auto harvest that material without getting the consent of the copyright owners and of the authors.
Right. And the last quick hit, which is, we have going back to one useful thing, which is Ethan Mollick's blog.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a wonderful article, again, a futuristic, or rather, what the state of AI is right now, as in maybe the last couple of weeks. So the main point that I want to talk about is that, AI is growing, and Ethan sort of categorizes AI is into smart AI and very smart AI. Very smart AIs, Tony, are the one. Okay, so these are the ones that have some level of human reasoning and rational sort of logic-based decision making. We are not talking about agents, but models that can argue with themselves and eventually lead to the right decisions, like how a human would. So these are the very smart AIs, and he's talking about O1 and O1 Pro, which is what we just mentioned. So I want to check, is it from your point of view, from Tony O'Rourke's point of view, do you think you will start using more very smart AI tools in 2025?
I will certainly be using more smart AI tools in 2025. I think this is a natural progression to be, as the tools improve, so will be the tools I want to use.
So, Tony, this brings us to the end of our episode, but I want to ask you a question related to what we just talked about. Have you yet, Tony O'Rourke, have you had a conversation with a generative AI in terms of a voice conversation with one of the GPT-4 level tools yet?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I've seen the adverts, but I haven't actually used it. Have you?
It is addictive, Tony. It feels like, at least I feel like the AI assistant, both Gemini and ChatGPT, are better human beings than my friends. And I think
I hope they're not watching this.
No, I want you to try it, and maybe we can quickly talk about it. Okay. Just go on. If you have an Android phone, you can use Gemini by default, but you can use either. But just talk to it and ask it, give it some background, and go through it.
I'll do it before the next episode.
Right. So, Tony, we cannot leave the viewers hanging without talking about what you did for New Year's Eve.
Not a great deal. Well, the most interesting thing is I went out on New Year's Eve for the first time, and I can't remember. My son's wife, my daughter-in-law, is a singer, so she had a concert on New Year's Eve, or an event that she entertained, and we went to that, watched her entertain a large audience.
So were you up till 5 a.m. in the morning?
I think it's about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah, it was quite late.
I was up till 10 past 10.
Happy New Year to you
then. All right, Tony. So if somebody wants to find more PubShots episodes, all the 23 episodes we have published so far, how could they do it?
Yeah, they can find them very easily by searching Enago PubShots on YouTube, or looking up on LinkedIn.
Right. And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon. And if suppose the content, we are talking about all kinds of AI, including regular AI related conversations that everybody's having. If suppose you find this conversation to be interesting or the content to be interesting, share it with your colleagues or
Yeah,
friends or family, and let us know what you would want Tony and I to talk. And we would be
yeah.
happy to cover the stories for you.
I look forward to hearing seeing more comments.
Right. And Tony, that brings us again to the end of episode 24 changes ChatGPT 2. And we will be back in a couple of days. And until the next time, this is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony as well as the entire team that helps us bring such content to you. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
Bye.